I am going to be so late getting to camp tonight. So before I actually get hiking, I just want to walk over to Takakkaw Falls. It's just a couple minutes away from the parking lot. The falls is right there, and I'm just going to wander over. Well, we're getting a little bit closer. The people in the foreground at the base of the falls kind of gives you a better idea of the height of this falls. It's one of Canada's tallest waterfalls. Haven't even made it out of the parking lot, and here we go. I kind of got my start hiking here. In 1978, I worked at the Chateau Lake Louise, and on my days off, sometimes I would get into the Yoho Valley, do some day hiking, and loved it. Beautiful, beautiful area. So this brings back some neat memories. Thank you, Parks Canada, for the trail work. Here's more of Parks Canada trail work. This one's recent. Almost looks like yesterday. Again, this looks pretty recent too. Here's a neat hiking sign. And just the way the sap is run, it looks like a hiker. And we've reached the junction, so the campground is about 150 meters, 200 meters off to the left. This is our first view of Twin Falls, just before we go down to Twin Falls Campground. We have arrived, so it's time to set up the tent. Find a tent pad anyway and set up the tent and get supper going. So I think that's the choice for tonight. This is really weird. It's 5:30 in the afternoon. I just arrived in camp, and I think there's 5 tent pads here, and I seem to be the only person here. And the campsite, I think, was full tonight. I think everything was reserved. I think I got the last tent site or tent pad because I just booked them the other day. It's a great spot. The eating area is out here along the creek. And then over there are the cables for hanging the food bags. So this is tradition. First night out. Most of my hikes anyway. Pizza in the Outback oven. I've had this thing since 2005 and it's still going. I don't think they make them anymore or sell them anymore. So what I do, I make the dough ball ahead of time, a couple days ahead of time at home, and put it in the freezer and then take it out the morning of the hike. and this is the Outback oven. So what I do up some parchment papers ahead of time. Makes cleanup a breeze. Now we're just going to put the hood over top, and you have warm up, bake, and burnt. So the idea is just to keep it out of that burnt. Another tradition first night out is to sink a can of Coke into the nearby creek or nearby pond or nearby lake. There's always a water source at camp, so I did that before I made the pizza. So I'm going to grab that nice ice cold Coke, and I think I'll pair it tonight with a nice vodka. Well, today was pretty short and sweet. 6.5 kilometers. Tomorrow, almost 3 times as long, and a lot more up and down. But the views are going to be spectacular. Anyway, the days are getting shorter here in September. It's cooling off. The sun has gone down behind the mountains. So I'm going to call it a night pretty soon. We'll see you in the morning. Good morning, it's day 2. Cool this morning, it's probably about +5 right now, so about 40 Fahrenheit. I had a weird night. It all started about 15 minutes after I climbed into the tent. I could hear this crunching noise near the tent, kind of like something on gravel, and it only lasted a couple seconds. Got my attention, and then about 15 minutes later, I heard a similar sound, only for a couple of seconds. I dozed off a little bit after that, and probably about 15 minutes later, I opened my eyes and something walked past the tent. Like I could see a shadow, 4-legged, large. The weird thing was there was no noise, but I definitely saw a shadow walk past the tent, and that got my attention. In fact, I grabbed the bear spray. I have the bear spray laying beside my sleeping bag, and grabbed the bear spray. I don't know if it was my imagination running wild. You know, you start wondering what's out there. Where is it? Anyway, and then I fell asleep. I'm looking forward to the day. It's going to be a great day. Twin Falls. Here we go. Big climb up to Twin Falls Chalet, and then we'll take a break. So I'm heading up the switchbacks up to the Twin Falls Chalet. Got out the old oximeter. So I've come to the junction with the Whaleback. Just over to my left is Twin Falls Chalet. So a little history on the Twin Falls Chalet. In 1901, the Yoho Valley Trail was built, and then in 1908 construction began here by the Canadian Pacific Railway of the Twin Falls Chalet, and then in 1923 a 2-story structure was added. So this thing is almost 100 years old. A lady named Fran Drummond ran this place for I think 50 plus years. If I understand it right, her lease ran out I think a year ago, and Parks Canada took it over, and it is unfortunately closed until further notice. You may have noticed that it is not Twin Falls. So the left half obviously is not flowing. This has happened on occasion. So I'm guessing rocks Logs, trees have blocked it, and the flow now is only down the right half of it. Here's a fancy outhouse with a view. So there are supplies here for work. There's some insulation, scaffolding. Just nobody around. So I'm not quite sure what the story is right now here. So getting back to this map, there's a climb of about 250 meters up to the waterfall. So just over 800 feet. So we're going to do that now. And then I think I'm going to take a lunch break up there. The water in the distance, that's Yoho River. The creek right here is Twin Falls Creek, where we camped last night. Still climbing, lots of rock. The views are opening up now though. Great views across the valley. This is the trail that I've been coming up on. And it's going to switch back up even more. I think this is Twin Falls campsite below here. It was right on the edge of the creek where it widened. I think that's where it is.
Hi JJ, my name is Ophelia, and I have a very important mission for you. If you decide to accept it, it will consist in searching and rescuing an osprey bag that contains a map. It is a very important map because it has our next trip route leaving the valley. So if you wouldn't mind locating it and delivering it back to us at the Little Yoho campground, that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Man, what a view. This is the top of the rock face that I've been climbing up. I don't know, 250 meters elevation gain. Standing at the very top of it now. The falls is just over to the right of me. You can see the mist below it. And then the creek runs down to join the Yoho River. Well, I'm standing at the very, very top of Twin Falls. And it looks like the rock has filled up the other channel over there. What a view. I'm going to stop here for lunch. It doesn't get any better than this. And then after lunch, the bridge over the creek is up there. And then from there we'll go up over the Whaleback even higher. There's some neat cascades at the top of the valley. And then that creek runs down to here. And the bridge. And that is the top of Twin Falls. We're looking east to Mount Belfer. Mount Belfer is the highest mountain in the area, almost 11,000 feet. Troll Tinder Mountain is over there too. The glaciers of those mountains to the east are part of the Waputtik ice field. This is the trail up Whaleback Ridge. That's what I'm looking at. The trail goes way up over there. Methinks we're getting close to the ridge. Hopefully that's it right up ahead there. So this is the summit of Whaleback Ridge. And I believe this is the cairn that commemorates a skier that passed away in 1962 from an avalanche. So I'm just going to take a short break here, enjoy the view. This viewpoint is spectacular. Oops, I think I was wrong again. I'm going to guess this is the cairn that commemorates that skier. What a great spot. So the route this afternoon, I'm going to switch back down through those trees. I'm going to cross the river below us. I'm going to make my way up through those trees to the bottom of that moraine, and that is the Iceline Trail. Going to make my way around past that moraine, over and down to Yoho Lake, and camp there tonight. Okay, here we go down. We're going to head down 300 meters, or about 1,000 feet, down to the Little Yoho River. Switchbacks, lots of switchbacks on this trail. The views across valley, those are the vice president and the president, and those mountains were named for the executives of the Canadian Pacific Railway back in the late 1800s. The trail today actually has been really good until now, but we'll just climb over it. Well, I've reached the trail junction coming down from the Whaleback, and holy man, that was a steep down. 300 meters down in 1.5 kilometers. So if my math is right, 20% grade, that is steep. Thankfully downhill. And I never found the Osprey map case. I'm so sorry. The views are pretty outstanding, and unfortunately I couldn't keep my eye on the trail all the time. Another trail sign, Yoho Lake, 10.2 kilometers. I'm getting a little low on water, so not much still water back there at the crossing over Little Yoho River. This looks pretty nice, so in fact I think that looks really good. This, I believe, is Little Gem Pond. Look at how clear the water is. It's a great little spot, Little Gem Pond. And the trail's over there on the side, wandering along the shore. We're making our way to Celeste Lake. That'll be our next stop. This would be Celeste Lake. And it looks a little dry this time of year, early September. 3 kilometers now, or about 2 miles up to the Iceline Trail. And once I reach the Iceline Trail, that will be the high point for this afternoon, and literally all downhill the rest of the hike. So I've come to a bit of a trail junction. This is the old Skyline Trail. I hiked this trail in 1985 with my wife, one of my uncles, and a couple of buddies, Marty and Craig. And we hiked in from Yoho Lake to Little Yoho campsite, and then got dumped on by 2 feet of snow overnight, middle of July. Parks Canada hasn't maintained the Skyline Trail since I think probably the late 80s. They built the Iceline Trail, which is a great trail, but the Skyline Trail was nice. I really liked it, and I wish they would bring it back, but I don't think they will. Anyway, we go 900 meters on the old Skyline Trail, and then we go up about 1 kilometer at another junction up to the Iceline Trail. I'm still on the Skyline Trail, just busted out of the trees, and have a great view of this meadow. Ain't nothing wrong with this Skyline Trail. I mean, I really wish Parks Canada would bring it back. You know, the Iceline Trail is nice. It's spectacular, as a lot of people would say. But in extreme weather, if it's raining or even snowing, it ain't the nicest place to be. And a trail like the Skyline Trail through the trees would be a really nice option for people. And the backcountry, it's so popular, it's so busy. I don't see why Parks Canada does not want to, or would not want to, revisit opening this trail. Well, we just said goodbye to the old Skyline Trail. That's the view you would have had back in the 80s. Nothing wrong with that. So now we're going to head up this connector trail to the Skyline, and then on to Yoho Lake. Got some great views of the valley as I'm catching my breath here on the way up to the Iceline. Beautiful day today. Great day for hiking. Those mountains in the center, they're the backdrop for Lake Louise, Mount Victoria. So we've reached the junction with the Iceline Trail. This is the Iceline Trail coming from the north. Nice little lake here below the Vice President. And now the trail is going to go to the south, and it's going to go over a bunch of lateral moraines that have been churned up and left behind by the receding glaciers from the Vice President. This is where I've come from. And this is where I'm going. Lots of rock. That's the Iceline Trail for you. I've got a great picture of my son and daughter-in-law posing on that point back in 2014 when they hiked the trail with me. Check out Takakkaw Falls across the valley. Get a nice view of it now. We're actually up above it. I am gonna be so late getting to camp tonight. I just can't put the camera away. God, the views are great. So I've reached the trailhead with Yoho Lake. Still got 2.4 kilometers, so I don't know, probably 45 minutes. Well, it's getting late and it's lasagna tonight for supper. Real quick one. It's after 8 o'clock, so don't have much daylight left. This is the view at supper time. This is Yoho Lake at dusk. Parks Canada sets these chairs up in certain areas of the park. Obviously photogenic and scenic, and this is one of them. I'm gonna do a real quick wrap up today. It's getting dark. Supper's ready in about 1 minute and I'm starving. The views from the top of Twin Falls were spectacular, and then the Whaleback Ridge, which I've never been to, was amazing. Up onto the Iceline Trail, of course, was fantastic. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow morning, heading down and out to Emerald Lake Lodge. I'll see you in the morning. Good morning, it's day 3, the last day on the trail. I think I mentioned last night that Parks Canada sets up these red chairs all over the parks. So these are the chairs at Yoho Lake. They have a great view of the lake itself and Wapta Mountain overlooking the lake. This is the first stop of the day. This is the junction to the Burgess Pass Highline Trail. That's a trail that my buddy Marty and I did back in the mid-90s. Started with a 3,000 foot climb out of the gate from the trailhead at the Trans-Canada Highway. This is our first view of Emerald Lake and Emerald Lake Lodge. We're going to be there in a couple of hours. And then 10 seconds from that spot, looking at Emerald Lake, come around the corner, here's the first view of the waterfalls on the Presidential Range. So we're going down through the trees right now. Bit of a short, steep section, and then it'll level out for a bit. We'll stop for a look at the falls and a little bit of a rest, and then there's another short, steep section, and then it levels out near the bottom. I found some fish bones on the trail. Emerald Lake was discovered by legendary outfitter Tom Wilson in 1882. He was packing for the Canadian Pacific Railway survey cruise, and having lost some of his horses, he followed their tracks up the Emerald Valley, which is off to the left, and he followed their tracks up to the lake and discovered the lake. And in 1903, the CPR opened its first backcountry chalet at Emerald Lake, and that was the start of today's Emerald Lake Lodge. Here's a little different angle of that waterfall coming down from the Presidential Range. This is where I've come down from this morning. Yoho Lake is at the top of the pass there. Then I've come down through these dry channels. In the spring and summer, these would be roaring with water. Well, I figured it was time for a joke. This nice old lady lived in an apartment building, and she phoned her friendly neighbor down the hall and asked him if he could come over and help her. And she said she had this killer jigsaw puzzle and she just couldn't figure out how to put the pieces together. And he said, well, what does the box show? What does the cover on the box show? And she said, well, it looks like a big red rooster. So he said, yeah, okay, I'll come by in a few minutes. So he knocked on the door a few minutes later, and she let him in, and she led him over to the dining table, and she had spread out all the pieces all over the table, and he had a good look at it, and then he had a look at the box cover, and then he said, it doesn't matter what we do, we will never be able to put all these pieces back into a jigsaw puzzle that resembles anything like a rooster. And he said, secondly, I think we should make a nice pot of tea and sit down and enjoy some tea, and then afterwards I'll help you put all the cornflakes back in the box. So this is our last trail junction of the hike, 1.8 kilometers to the parking lot at Emerald Lake. The circuit basically just goes around the lakeshore. Nice hike if you're out for a day hike. Well, we're almost at the end of the hike, a couple hundred meters from the Emerald Lake Lodge. Such a great hike. I really enjoyed this one. I hope you did too. Thanks for hiking along with me. If you liked it, hit the like button, smash it, and share it with your friends. Tell them you hiked the whole trail with me. And subscribe for the next video. Thought I'd give the lasagna another try. The last time I tried this was probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and 4 of us had it, and we all had the farts that night. So hopefully that won't happen tonight. Nobody farted last night. I almost forgot you, little buddy.